Morning. How's it going? We have a lot going on today. Woke up. We're looking a mess, having some coffee. But I just had my 6 week weigh in and I'm down 10 pounds. Did it, nailed it. So excited. And my body's feeling so much better. And if you're new here, some years back, there was an accident. I broke a hip, needing surgery, low back injury that pinches a nerve to the same leg. So, that's a good time. And if you've ever been injured, like injured in a bigger way, it's never just the injury. Like there's always like other fallout and like other things that can come along with it. So, after gaining some weight over winter, I was really starting to feel it, but that's getting much better now. So, I think I'm going to look into changing how I've been structuring it because, and we'll get into it, but I've just been pretty low key about it and just especially with like lower energy levels with the body, which is part of the nerve thing that I have going on, and the chronic pain and trying to adjust food the right way is, I it was becoming overwhelming, and so I decided just to do it rather simply, and it's working. It's working. Okay, let's talk about movement slash exercise because I made this as simple as I possibly could. Because this spring, I've been working on projects for the yard. I've been spring cleaning inside and getting all of those things together. You're going to see bits and pieces of it behind me because it's like everything is just like partially done. But because I've been, lifting and putting things together, putting down landscaping fabric, digging up the dirt, planting, doing all of these sorts of things. And that's been my exercise. And also, I put various pieces of equipment outside. For example, I put out my pull up rack and I put it in the path so that every time I walk by it, I just stop and I hang for a little bit. I do a few exercises. I also just take time throughout the day, especially when I'm doing a lot of like lifting and moving things around. I'm taking time to like stop and do some stretching, some mobility. And all of those little things really add up. And really feel like, I really feel like it's easy to fall down the trap of when people say, like, and we've all seen it when it comes, especially when it comes to exercise, like if people saying you're not doing enough to get results, or there's just a lot of things, but then there's contradictory things like, well, you don't want to overtrain. It gets really confusing, and it's like starting out with the simple things, and by my not like taxing my body too much and just really incorporating things that I'm doing already and then adding little things here and there. That little bit of like reframe of like, this is really good, and this is like my body's feeling okay. I'm feeling like a good amount of tired in the evening, but I'm not feeling too strained or anything like that. That's been a really nice pocket for me to be in these last few months, and I can get up the next day and do it again, and I'm not feeling like thrashed or messed up or anything like that. So incorporating like having a project has been amazing, but it's like there are things that we do all the time in regular life that can absolutely just come in handy in that way of getting an exercise. So I don't know. I think having some sort of project, whether it's outside or like I said, I was doing spring cleaning, so it's like that's inside, and then it preps me for summer. So then my summer is all freed up to just go and have a good time. So I haven't been overthinking it. I feel stronger. I feel like I have more energy, and it's just all around been pretty awesome. And I think I'm going to reevaluate just the structure of my exercise and what I'm doing, and getting a little bit more intentional about specific exercises as these projects are wrapping up. And I feel like operating with the seasons is, I'm really been noticing the value in that, like I'll get to nutrition, but right now it's like fruit are like, it's everywhere right now. It's easy to, eat a little lighter or eat a little more nutrient dense, in the summertime, because you only get, fresh watermelon and all that, a specific time of year. And it's just, I feel like it goes for movement too, like it's way easier to get in certain things in the spring and summer, and taking advantage of that. And especially like I fought with being consistent with exercise, especially with like being busy or like, it just happens. It's been my whole life really. And I've struggled keeping that habit. But the cool thing is that if I can get through like this part and just get a little more consistent and start making plans, especially through fall and winter, those are the times, those are the years in which I can really set myself up for much better um, routines and much better processes that will, just kind of help me stick with it a little bit more. But I think being kind and being gentle in regard to getting too much advice, if that makes sense, because there are so many contradictory things out there in fitness marketing, and oh, it can be really heavy, And I think shutting out the noise has been really powerful, and just doing something, doing anything, just getting through it. And having a good time with it. I'm having a great time doing these projects, even with all the frustrating parts, you know. It's been a really nice creative process as well. And I had talked about that in last month's video about wanting to start an art practice, a daily art practice. But I feel like doing all of the problem solving and imagining how I want the space to look and moving pieces around and seeing how they fit and how the space works. It's just it's fulfilling me in that way right now. So I think I've got my supplies and I'll start art practice soon. But for now, I feel like this season has been pretty fulfilling in a lot of ways, and it seems to be showing up a lot in my mental and physical health. And then next up is nutrition, the way I've been eating. And really this, like I said before, it's really easy this time of year because the store, the farm stands, they all have so many good fresh ingredients, and it's just really fun playing around those like types of things. Time is always a factor though. I find that like the times in which I want to go and just say whatever and just pick up like takeout, they're usually the days in which I've been working and I haven't really done all the food shopping, and it's like I just kind of find a little bit of grace for myself in those days because there have been like throughout the last 6 weeks there have been days in which I needed to do that, and there have been days in which I've been really on it with cooking, and it's just kind of the reality. Overall, I just haven't been overthinking it that much. I've just been more mindful about what I've been eating and just enjoying enjoying what's been fresh lately. So those are things that I need to kind of keep an eye on in the wintertime for sure. But at the same time, there are some really delicious winter foods, man. Live your life. I don't know, live your life. But food is such a complicated topic for me, and I think like a lot of other people, if you grew up with your body being a topic of discussion, sometimes that just doesn't leave you. And sometimes that can, lead to some things that are really hard to shake off. Managing the food noise sometimes is a challenge. And I just try to find as much grace for myself as possible in those times. Yeah. Okay. And then I want to talk about hydration because I feel like I was pretty good with drinking my water. And I promise you, this is not an ad. This is like, I'm not sponsored. I tried Element, and oh my God, the amount of energy I've had, like it kind of beat out the afternoon slump. Like I've just had a lot more energy, and I started drinking it a while ago, and it's I don't know, and I thought maybe it was just me. And then I gave some to a friend of mine. I gave some to my husband, and like my friend went and bought a box immediately, and now my husband's all up in my stash. So I don't know. So now I need to. So now I'm buying it pretty regularly, and I'll do a whole video on that. But I wanted to mention that because I tried electrolytes before and it was fine, but there's something different about it, and I'll make a not sponsored review video for that, but I'll leave a link for it below. But it's stuff works. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It just does. But along those lines, though, hydration obviously helps with everything. And so anything that's just kind of been helping me stay on track with that, especially in the summer and working out in the sun and yeah, all of that. It's just way easier to get it in sometimes when you have something not just flavored, but also something that can kind of give you a little bit of a boost without being jittery. So, so that's been actually really, really helpful. The other thing that I really wanted to touch on with this is mindset as well, because like I mentioned earlier, man, there's just so much different advice out there, and a lot of it contradicts each other, and sometimes it's like science-backed information that's actually really, really helpful in theory, but it can be tough to put into practice in life. And I sometimes I really have a hard time with not beating myself up for, not nailing certain routines or not um, being as consistent with certain things. But we can do what we can, and there are phases in life in which it's much easier for me to stick to a protocol or do things to a T. And then there are all of the other times in which it just isn't working. And it's hard for me to not throw in the towel sometimes when I get too in my head about it and I get overwhelmed and over analyzing what I'm doing or data on my watch or anything like that. It can get kind of sticky. But I've been a little bit better about acknowledging where I am in headspace and acknowledging where I am in life and schedule and energy and all of those things. And that has been super helpful because I can find a little bit of grace in there, or I can find places in which I'm, kind of just being a little slacker, like genuinely. And I can, decide how to proceed from there. So, um, I think just honesty with myself has been really helpful too, because there are days in which I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should do this thing, but it's not that big of a deal to do it, and I can just get it done. And then other times it's just genuinely like, just it just doesn't feel possible. So finding that grace has been really helpful, I think, and especially when it's like when you have been on that hamster wheel of trying and failing and trying and failing and or trying, making some progress, stalling out, and then just like quitting. I just kind of stopped thinking about it starting and quitting for one thing, and for two, actually talking about stalling out because I feel like that's a fair amount of weight to lose at first, those 10 pounds in about 6 weeks, but there's a plateau has got to be coming, or my body's going to slow that down and need to recalibrate, at some point in the process, and it's just going to happen. I'm prepared for it, and we'll just go from there. But um, it's not the scale is not important to me. What's important to me is like I'm feeling better. My clothes are fitting a little better too, and my back isn't hurting as much, and my hip is feeling better in certain ways. Some pain is kind of always, but um, wind's picking up. But I'm feeling better in certain ways, and like that's all I could ever ask for. Really. It's not so much aesthetics; it's more like I just want my body to feel good, and if I if I really put all my eggs in the feel good basket, it pays off a lot more for me. I don't know. I don't want this to feel like I'm giving advice. I just kind of wanted to share what I've been doing and sharing how I'm thinking about it because we're all so different, you know. And so many of us struggle to stick with exercise. And I'm actually reading this book right now it's really interesting. It's by a scientist talking about like the progression of exercise on purpose as opposed to exercise just being something we did because we used to like grow our own food and do everything ourselves. So that's been actually really interesting. I'll share that when I'm finished, but it's a good read so far. Anyway, this was just a catch up video, just kind of talk about what I've been doing because I've been so busy and I've just been like just picking up the camera here and there and then not doing anything with it because I've just been so busy. But in the coming weeks, I'm going to be doing a lot more go with me and take you along with other things and talking about my process from here on out. I really think it's important to document these things, especially when it's something simple and it's going well, because it's so easy to just go off into doing like wanting to do the bigger thing, So we'll see. We'll see. We're just trying. And, things are really, especially hard right now. So we're all just kind of doing our best. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you in the next one. Happy training. Bye bye.